I ever so was fascinated by MorphOS, a modern AmigaOS-like operating system targeted at the PowerPC architecture. But what a downer when I found I misread the hardware specs and I couldn't install it onto this iBook G3. But hey, at least I have an unused Mac Mini G4, so let's bring that one to the 21st century, shall we? I love old computers, I love to collect them, I love to fix them. I'm the Vintage Collector and these are my stories. Admittedly, although I'm coming from the C64 and thus the Commodore world, I never had made the step towards Amiga as I went straight to PCs. And until recently, I didn't even have an Amiga until I was attributed an Amiga 500 earlier this year. Now, the Amiga 500 certainly won't run MorphOS as it's based around the Motorola 68K processor, whereas MorphOS is targeted at the PowerPC architecture. And although the Amiga 500 ran on an earlier version of AmigaOS, the most recent incarnation of AmigaOS 4.x, which is also targeted at the PowerPC platform, certainly doesn't run on it as well. And speaking of AmigaOS 4.x, as a direct line descendant of the original AmigaOS, this one doesn't officially run on Apple machines, at least not without some hackery. MorphOS on the other hand runs just natively, at least if you pick up a compatible machine. The history goes back to the 90s. According to the German Wikipedia, MorphOS shares some distant origin with PowerUp, a software solution running on the PowerUp PPC acceleration boards developed by Ralf Schmidt when working with Phase 5. As we are going to see, that makes MorphOS not a direct technological, but more like a conceptual descendant. Coming from the AmigaOS insights, MorphOS is mentioned as providing binary compatibility for OS-friendly AmigaOS applications to run on MorphOS by means of an API-only implementation with no direct source code transfer between AmigaOS and MorphOS. However, some derivative work in MorphOS was based on the AROS operating system, most notably for the A-Box. A-Box is the name of the emulation sandbox that implements compatibility to AmigaOS 68K applications as well as PPC native PowerUp and WarpOS executables. For the 68 compatibility, transgit, a just-in-time compiler, is provided to translate the 68K CPU instructions into PPC instructions. So while MorphOS clearly took a lot of influence from AmigaOS, it is built entirely onto new fundaments to make it a modern operating system that also promises to run at decent speed on this dated Mac Mini. But how much so? So I put the coaster and press the Option key in order to get the drive selection. It takes somewhat 45 seconds to boot up and apparently it doesn't like my non-Apple display I hooked up. Sorry for that, I'll try to set up the screen resolution so this annoying pop-up goes away. What's important to mention, MorphOS comes as a live system, so you can peek around the OS quite a bit already without the need to install it to the hard drive. But that's exactly what I want to do, so I'll bring up the system preferences from where I can configure the monitor. For the moment, I'll just use an 800 by 600 resolution, which is good enough for the pop-up to disappear and allow me installing the OS without further distraction. So here I'm back again at the first flight program, which came up just after startup. Let's head into the installation, which runs you through some dialogues to adjust the time zone, the localization and the disk partitions. The only thing a bit unusual to me is the absence of a progress bar. Once you hit the install button, you'll see some numbers indicating how many files have been copied, but you get no indication whatsoever where you stand in terms of progress. Okay, it's nothing too serious, and if that's my only point of criticism, then it's not too bad. Anyway, it took around 7 minutes to complete the install, so let's have it reboot from the hard drive. Wait a second, have you seen how quick it was? A mere 12 seconds from 0 to desktop? I don't think OS X was even that fast. That's fantastic. And here it is again. Seems MorphOS has reverted to a sane default for the video configuration during the install. Let's do it in a bit more detail than before. The Preferences dialog provides you a means for testing these settings, which is quite nice. On the other side, at one point I managed to choose an erroneous preset which made the desktop inaccessible, and I had no way in reverting except for resetting the system. Although this is not as plug and play as one would probably wish for, I have the full freedom to configure all possible screen modes myself. And so I took myself the time to configure proper video modes matching my monitor. Having said that, it's not enough to just define the video modes on the monitor control panel. In order to set the desired desktop resolution, use the Screens control panel. From here you can select the display depth and resolution you desire, that's all. So let's see what else we've got here. It's no surprise we do have the usual suspects like the screen blanker and the hotkey configuration tool. Bootpick allows you to redefine the boot screen and even the text message that's displayed during startup. There's additional control panels for desktop fonts, time and date, system notifications, audio and keyboard settings and many more. Besides the system preferences, there's also the MUI preferences. MUI is the MorphOS Magic User Interface, and the preference panel provides you ample of options for further customization. It's no surprise, MorphOS comes with a heap of bundled programs already pre-installed. Like here, a graphical netstat utility, or here, defrag. I just love that washing machine. Look here how it defragments your file system. MorphOS, by the way, supports a heap of file systems, with the Smart File System being its default. It's said to support long file names up to 107 characters in length, maximum file sizes up to 4 GB, and a maximum partition size of up to 128 GB. Having said that, the Mounter app shows the available drives and mount points. There's the hdconfig program for managing your partitions and SFS Doctor, which is a file system repair program. Besides all that, you'll find a bundled text editor, screen grabber, an audio recorder, a clock, a task manager, and even the Minesweeper game. And then, in the applications folder, there's even more programs that just came along with MorphOS. You may want to check out Wayfarer, which is MorphOS's default web browser. But I don't have the network configured yet, so let's snoop around how to make it work. Apparently, you'll find the shell in the System Tools folder, and while this is totally not Linux or Unix, it did obviously borrow some well-known userland commands, as there is ifconfig. It was just a random guess, and I really didn't read up that one before. But MorphOS fully delivered on my subtle expectation. But of course, I wouldn't expect to fumble around with CLI and config files. There must be a graphical control panel to set things up. And yes, there is, straight and simple, and my ping confirms I have network access now. Not 1 minute too late, as I'm still running in unregistered mode. As indicated on the MorphOS website, this is a closed-source product distributed under a commercial license. The demo version is free and offers full and unrestricted functionality, but has a 30-minute time bomb, after which it will slow down and become barely usable. It's €79, but from what I've seen so far, well deserved. As indicated, I'll be using the rec tool to submit my system for licensing. Now, the license is bound to the hardware and cannot be reused for another system. But the makers of MorphOS offer you the possibility to get in touch and transfer the license in case of an unrecoverable hardware failure. That's fair enough. Once you have received the key, copy the morphos.key file to the sys:defs directory. Now, neither the email I got nor the FAQ explicitly mentions this, but it seems to require a reboot to activate the license key, as just in the middle of doing something else, I again received this nagging pop-up. A quick look at the forums, even though it's a 12 years old post, seems to confirm that. Anyway, I now have a registered MorphOS on my Mac Mini, and I was just gazing through aminet.net. Aminet is said to be the biggest repository for AmigaOS and MorphOS software, and I would agree it's quite extensive. As an alternative, there's also MorphOS storage.net providing for applications. One could as well use Grunge, a separately to install packet manager. But once you have it, it's easy to browse through the repositories, as I'm doing here, just to install Scriber, a word processor for MorphOS. Aside from tons of applications, whether that be 68K AmigaOS programs or native MorphOS applications, there's no way around some games. And, not unexpected, there's ScumVM to run all those glorious LucasArts point-and-click adventures.
Es sieht ungesund aus.
Ouch! I had forgotten how terrible the German dubbing for Day of the Tentacle was.
Aber ich muss wohl noch mal zurück zum Tollhaus.
Grässlich. What about some ego shooters? Obviously, someone ported Quake 3 Arena and even Duke Nukem 3D, although I couldn't get the latter to run in full screen mode. As of January 2025, only 1 month after releasing this original video in December 2024, the MorphOS team had already shipped version 3.19. And honestly, I had fully intended to perform this system upgrade much earlier, especially since I had not looked into the update process at all so far. Reading through the documentation, it quickly left me with the impression that it should be fairly straightforward. Just boot from the CD-ROM and run the upgrade. No big deal. Well, except for one thing. The MorphOS installer would again try to use a screen profile that was definitely not compatible with the display I was using that day. After some reading, I found that the solution is actually quite simple. By pressing the control key during startup, you can force MorphOS to use a safe 1024 by 768 screen resolution. There's only one catch though. To boot the Mac Mini from the CD-ROM, you must press the C key during startup. So the obvious question is, at which point do you press the control key? As you might guess, it did not work at first. Not until I pressed the Option key to bring up the Open Firmware Boot Manager. From there, I selected the CD-ROM, and right before booting from it, I pressed and held the control key. That finally did the trick. I was then greeted by the familiar First Flight Assistant, which this time offered an upgrade option. From there on, everything looked exactly the same as during the original installation. The difference being that all my custom settings were preserved. And just like that, I ended up running MorphOS 3.19. So, this was my quick look into MorphOS. As a new user, I was really surprised how fast and seamless it runs. It really feels like it totally belongs onto this dated Mac Mini and fully holds up to the promise. Now, I didn't show any classic games as these need the additional EUAE emulator and some additional software installed. Maybe a good motivation for a second look, especially to compare against this classic Amiga 500, which, for reasons only known by the pre-owner, has been signed by Sean Southern of British video game developer Magnetic Fields. What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. I'm the Vintage Collector, and this was my story for today. Thanks for watching, and see you again tomorrow.